Hello and welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute-a-day podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse, recorded here in the dining room of the Bible Bistro, located in Sharonville, Ohio. Hey there, friend. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. This is your home for organic Bible study that's fresh and delicious, artisanally made, responsibly handled, locally sourced. This is Daily Dose Radio. Today we're studying Psalm 61, verses 3 and 4. So if you have your Bible, I hope you'll turn there with me. And while you're turning, let me just remind you that the Bible Bistro also has a website. You can just surf out onto the international superhighway called the interwebs and find it at www.my-dailydose.com. And Daily Dose, of course, that's all run together.com. Just go out to my-dailydose.com and you'll find the Bible Bistro on the interwebs. Today we're looking at verses 3 and 4. If you have your Bible, turn there, but if you don't, I'm going to be glad to read for you. For thou hast been a shelter for me, and a strong tower from the enemy. I will abide in thy tabernacle forever. I will trust in the covert of thy wings, Selah. So many themes here, so much being said. Well, I think we also need to, and I didn't do it yesterday. I'm ashamed that I didn't do it yesterday. I should have gone back to Psalm 18. Psalm 18 is David's grand opus. It is his, I guess you could call it his thematic psalm for his life. And we have these ideas repeated over and over again in the other psalms that David wrote. So if you listen to Psalm 18, verse 1, I will love thee, O Lord, my strength. Verse 2, the Lord is my rock and my fortress and my deliverer, my God, my strength, in whom I will trust, my buckler and the horn of my salvation. I will call upon the Lord, who is worthy to be praised. So shall I be saved from my enemies. So David uses language here in Psalm 18 that we find in other psalms, and here it is again. Here in verse 3, we had it all yesterday in verse 2, lead me to the rock. And there in Psalm 18:2, we have the Lord is my rock. So we know that rock is Christ. The Lord is my rock, fortress, deliverer. And then he says, be a shelter for me. Well, David says there that God is his shelter. He is the fortress that David hides in. He's his strength. The high tower. See, so David says, be a shelter for me, or thou hast been a shelter for me. So this is a confession of faith. And of course, the Lord had a shelter from what? Well, the storm that Saul had rained down upon David. And here we have a strong tower from the enemy. Here we have that tower idea again. His high tower there in verse 2 of Psalm 18 comes over again here in Psalm 61, verse 3. A strong tower from the enemy. Well, who's the enemy? Well, in this case, I think we could say Saul. Of course, generally speaking, and if we spiritualize this, we can say Satan, the one who is the antagonist, the one who wants to put down the people of God. And this is going to be important later on. If we're talking about Saul, the enemy, then we're going to talk about Saul again in the second part of the psalm, beginning there in verse 5, but we find something about the king in verse 6. I'll save that till next time. I think we do that one tomorrow. Yeah. Notice that David goes on here in verse 4, and he says, I will abide in thy tabernacle forever. I will trust in the covert of thy wings. More confession here of faith, isn't it? I will abide, I will trust. You have been a strong shelter, a high tower from the enemy. I will abide in thy tabernacle forever. Now, David's thinking, I'm sure, not only of the tabernacle, where the ark of the Lord is and so forth, but I'm sure he's also thinking about the heavenly tabernacle because he uses this in phrase here, forever. He's going to abide there forever. I will trust in the covert of thy wings, now in this life and in the next. This is where our trust is to be placed. This, and then of course the Selah, and the Selah means break. We're going to break until tomorrow, and then we're going to take up verse 5. So meditate now on these two verses, 3 and 4, and I hope you'll join me tomorrow here on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. For more fresh and delicious Bible studies, podcasts, books, and more, check out the Bible Bistro online and on YouTube. Join me again next time for Daily Dose Radio.